hit the upper floors? Shortly after these questions were raised and the topic was open for discussion on our radio show, The Power Hour, these 5 frames were released from a security camera at the Pentagon. The only problem is that the release of these 5 photographs seemed to raise more questions than they answered. First of all, why was the date incorrect in the lower left corner of the screen? Second of all, they really didn't show that there was a 757 that had hit the Pentagon. And thirdly, many people asked, is this the only security camera that was on at the Pentagon? The Pentagon. This is the nerve center for the United States military, supposedly the most secure building in the country. And this is the only video footage that was available of the most heinous attack ever recorded at the Pentagon? Where were all the other security cameras aimed? What about the security cameras that were on in the hallways at the Pentagon? Every inch of the Pentagon is under video surveillance. Where are those video cameras? We also had a report about a gas station whose video camera was pointed in the exact direction where the 757 would have hit the Pentagon. Shortly after the event, it was reported that federal officials showed up at that gas station and confiscated that footage. In addition to all the magazines that hit the newsstands and the supermarket checkouts, there was a flurry of book releases that hit the local bookstores and in some cases the book section of your local grocery store. One book is America Attacked, which was released by University Press of California, and it was edited by Sarah Jess, Gabriel Beck, and R. Joseph. In reference to the attack on the Pentagon, on page 194 it states, "The jet had plowed a crater 100 feet wide that ripped away the walls of all 5 stories of the building, collapsing the outermost rings which encircle the Pentagon." In this picture, we ask, do you see a crater 100 feet wide or 50 feet wide? How about in this picture or this picture? It doesn't appear that there was any crater at all. They went on to say that it had ripped away the walls of the 5 stories of the building, collapsing the outermost rings, which encircle the Pentagon. Now, there should be no question that the outer rings of the Pentagon have indeed collapsed. We've seen pictures from one angle, from another angle, and America has seen these pictures. We all assumed that that was the damage that was caused by the 757 hitting the Pentagon. But shortly after the release of the article From Deception to Revelation, we were sent some photographs that were taken apparently right after the event and before the outer walls had collapsed. When examining these photographs, we can clearly see that the area in question had not yet collapsed. In fact, there is very little evidence of a hole big enough to accommodate a 757. The hole that we do see is approximately 14 to 16 feet across. Question: how does a 757 fit into a 16-foot hole and leave no damage or wreckage on the outside of the Pentagon? These are questions that deserve serious scrutiny. Let's take a look at some of the photographs that were taken before the outer wall of the Pentagon collapsed. In this first photograph, we can see the firefighters pulling the hoses away from the fire truck. In the foreground, we can see wire spools that were left on the front lawn of the Pentagon. After all, this section of the Pentagon was under renovation. We'll use these wire spools as reference points. Also, to the right of those wire spools and on the face of the Pentagon, we can see that some concrete facing has broken away. We'll also use this as a reference point as we examine these photographs. Now, to the left of that area where the facing has broken off, we can clearly see that the Pentagon has not yet collapsed. There are some flaming areas, and that area appears to be the only section where there is a hole approximately 14 to 16 feet. Question: how does a 757 fit into a 16-foot hole and leave no wreckage on the front of the building? We can also see that the roof of the building does show fatigue, but has not yet collapsed. In this photograph, an astonished onlooker sees exactly what we're seeing. The Pentagon had not yet collapsed. And again, there is no sign of any wreckage whatsoever. No tail, no fuselage, no wings, no wheels, no engines, no seats, no luggage, nothing on the outside of the Pentagon. Pentagon roofline is clearly visible, and again, it is under fatigue, but it had not yet collapsed. As we examine this next photograph, let's take a good close look at the lower left corner. You'll see engine 331 from the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, and we contacted the fire chief from this engine company. Chief Plower agreed to come on our radio show along with 2 of his firefighters, but 1 hour before airtime, they canceled. We were told that the 2 firefighters had been placed on indefinite leave. When we look at this photograph, we can see that the fire retardant foam is being sprayed on the front of the Pentagon, and again, the area in question had not yet collapsed. And you can see right in the center of the photograph a big area where some of the concrete facing has broken away, and it appears that this is the only major hole in the front of the Pentagon. Again, is this hole big enough to accommodate a 757? And where is the wreckage? In this photograph, we again see engine 331 and fire retardant foam being sprayed on the front of the Pentagon. Note clearly in the center of the photograph, we see the upper floors of the Pentagon, again, yet to collapse, but also notice that there does not appear to be any damage to these upper floors. Question: if the height of the Boeing 757 was 44 feet 6 inches, there should have been some point of impact in these upper floors, and yet when we look at these pictures, there doesn't appear to be any impact whatsoever in the area where the tail should have hit. And again, there is no wreckage visible on the front of the lawn. Now, while these photographs were being taken, videographers from several different networks were on the scene to capture the firefighters in action as they battled the blazes at the front of the Pentagon.
Jim Angle is joining us now from Washington. Jim, what can you tell us about that fire outside the Pentagon? Jim Angle, are you with us?
I can tell you first that the roads around the White House, the streets around the White House, were blocked seconds ago. Members of the Uniform Division of the Secret Service ran out to intersections and started diverting traffic. There are emergency vehicles on almost every block around the White House. The road south of the White House has also been blocked. And as you know, the White House is being evacuated. Federal employees are standing on the street corners in and around the White House, having left the building for fear of another attack. As you come into Washington from Virginia, about 2 miles from the Pentagon, you can see the smoke billowing up from the building. Huge clouds of smoke, so much so that commuters coming into town have pulled over to the side of a busy freeway, what is ordinarily a busy freeway, and are sitting, watching in amazement as the symbol of the United States Defense Establishment goes up in smoke. So there is an amazement all over Washington. People are not sure what to think. You've got a lot of federal employees standing around in this area watching as the streets are blocked off and emergency vehicles rush to and fro. We're not sure what they are up to, but clearly there is concern about the safety of the White House and the surrounding buildings. John.
Jim, do you know anything about what kind of plane?
Be advised, there's floor collapse, structural integrity is compromised. I'll give you a report as we get on the interior. We have structural collapse.
Question: what could have caused this type of damage? What could have caused a 14 to 16 foot hole and pierced 3 of the rings of the Pentagon? Keep in mind that each ring of the Pentagon has an outer and inner wall.
is that many times people have been bamboozled, tricked, fooled, or led astray, all those different things, when people try to lead you to believe that you're being told the truth and that you're being guided in the proper direction. That's why I say let go, let God Almighty. Most people say just let go, let God, but Satan sometimes takes the role of believing that he's being summoned, and you don't want to deal with that clown. So when I say let go, let God Almighty, it's another way of reaffirming that you're looking for absolute power, absolute guidance to bring things to justice. Now, this is like showing you, this is the Pentagon, and then when they had all the news people and everything, and they got the FBI involved, and everybody was trying to convince people that this big plane hit this building, and that all of a sudden they're trying to make it look like, or somebody's trying to make somebody, how foolish are you to believe that somehow the plane all of a sudden got retractable wings and retractable tail? That instead of hitting the upper area 40-some feet high, we don't have no damage reference to that. And instead of the wings knocking out all the walls, we don't have no reference to that. There's just so many things that'll be going on that people try to dumb down to Americans, let them know that they treat you like your little dumb children, that you don't know better, and that they have to deceive you in order to get you through life. And that's what, in many cases, the things that have happened in America, that they try to pit black against white or white against black, trying to say that black people got small brains, they can't do this, and that, and we need to thank for them. They're just good for nothing. And so a lot of people bought in that BS or that behavior, and they only find out that themselves became victims to the same foolery that trying to hate on black African American or Negroes or Negro black African Americans was only bringing their own selves down. But the ones that were smart enough to circumvent that behavior and go ahead and help people help themselves, and that's what it's always been about. Those that love God Almighty can see through the foolery, the trickery, the con, and those that just love self more than God Almighty, then they keep trying to shore up a lie, no matter what it is, and keep trying to make a lie a truth, and it won't stand up under true scrutiny, under blessed scrutiny for sure. And when I'm dealing with people, I deal with blessed scrutiny. I play blessed attention, and I play to win, and that's what it's all about. And that's what I'll be showing you on TV. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to this, making reference to the Pentagon, but I want you people to know that when people are trying to deceive you, you need to pay blessed attention and not be put on stupid or stuck on stupid. So if we can go back to the Pentagon. Anyway, so while these guys are back there trying to hash some stuff out, I'm trying to get these messages out to you people out there in TV land. It's so very, very important that you people learn to be strong, be focused, play to win, be honest, be truthful, be everything that God Almighty designed you to be. God Almighty knew you was coming to this world before you even were born. And so you people sitting out here thinking, well, I brought this little bastard kid in the world and I did this and that. God knows every hair on your head. He knows everything that's before it even happens. And so I love all you children out there in TV land. God Almighty knows that you're here. He has a purpose for you. I pray that you get focused on the true purpose and not people try and con you or boo-hoo you or buffalo you into believing that your life is purposeless, and because that's the furthest thing from the truth. And with God Almighty with you, as who can stand against you? And you must be very strong, you must be very focused, and you must be in line with playing to win. Ron, I want you to bring the TV back up. So this is what's so important. So you people watch a little bit more of this here and continue to be focused.
Each wall, approximately 18 inches thick of steel reinforced concrete. That means that each ring consisted of 36 inches or 3 feet of steel reinforced concrete for a total of approximately 9 feet of steel reinforced concrete. Question: could a 757 have pierced 9 feet of steel reinforced concrete and left a 14 to 16 foot hole and no wreckage? If not, what could have created that type of damage? On our radio program, The Power Hour, we have a lot of veterans and military experts that listen in, and many have called up and agreed that it could not have been a 757 that created that damage, but in fact had to be something else altogether. What could have caused that damage? Some call it a bunker buster or a missile. Now, as this controversy percolated through the year 2002, in January of 2003, the entire issue was resurrected when the American Society of Civil Engineers released a report entitled The Pentagon Building Performance Report. The announcement was made on CNN, and they showed an animated video that illustrated how the 757 slammed into the Pentagon and took out 50 support columns. Let's take another look at this computer-generated animation from the American Society of Civil Engineers at Purdue. And as we look at this plane, ask yourself this question: what significant information